So as Don mentioned, yes, this is not the next talk, this is more like a story. But yeah, some words in the beginning. I'm from Berlin, Germany. I'm working as a freelancer. I'm one of the Puppet Labs partners in Germany, doing the official training, stuff like that. And, yeah, co-working on some modules on the module Forge, not really on the Forge, but more on the GitHub repositories. I came to Puppet lots of years ago, and this is as I mentioned, it's not a talk, it's more a story. It's a story in my actual project. We have been asked to do implementing some virtualization management solution, and we tried to look and find a Puppet module that is suitable for us, and we easily learned, okay, we have to do it our own way, and this is the story how we came up with building a shareable module which would be available, is available on GitHub, would be available on the Forge if the people would build a package for the Forge, and how we use it and how we maintain it. So another title I was also rethinking about is why contributing is better than sitting in your golden porcelain tower and building something which is completely usable only by yourself and you cannot share it because you have put in too much private information inside. Or in other words, is what is the way how the Puppet community would deal with stuff concerning Puppet? So first, there's always someone telling you do something. Either you find it by yourself, oh, I need something to be done, and I don't like that doing it manually in that way. There's another solution that's implemented. It makes things harder in the beginning, but easier when we have implemented it properly. And of course, if it's from your boss, you will always tell him, okay, yeah, I will do that job. Hopefully I finished it by yesterday. So the first thing you start thinking about, okay, how do I build up a module? Well, you either have to take a look on the puppetlabs.com/learn sites. You have to teach yourself on how to use resource types and how to implement them, how to build classes, how to build modules, how to synchronize facts or functions across your nodes. And but what would be the best way to get started with, well, your very first module for that implementation? Well, the first thing, of course, is do everything by yourself. Don't bother whether there's already something available. Say, okay, I don't like that, it's a foreign code, we're not allowed to use foreign code, we have to implement everything by ourselves. So you start writing your own MySQL Apache modules, you start writing code which is usable on your platform only, but nobody else people can use that code. Maybe you have certain versions which are available in your private repositories only. So, yeah, my preferred term is the lone warrior. Why is it the lone warrior? You start coding Puppet. Who is coding Puppet in a manner like that? I'm very happy that I don't see any hands rising up. That's good so far. So you start saying, okay, I need a link over here, I need a link over there, I need a package installed, I need the service running, and and afterwards you're the guy in the company who has to take care of bug fixes. Other departments in your company learn, hey, that guy has built a module, hey, that's cool, and we need it, but we need it in a slightly more different way. So, okay, now it's your task to also re-implement what the other team needs. So, who's doing your code reviews? Who's doing the documentation? So who's doing all the work? Well, there's only one guy who's doing the work, it's you. You have to do everything by yourself. And this is, this is a hard way, but it's not a smart way. Again, features and changes. You're sitting alone on the horse, there's no one around, don't ask anybody, just do the stuff all by yourself. Is this really a good way? I don't know. I prefer the smart way, so not working hard. I prefer not working at all, because when I start working, I'm a freelancer. That means the company I'm working for, so the people who are paying for me, they have troubles. And this is something I definitely not like, a customer having troubles. So I prefer not working. I prefer doing things, yes, of course. So the first thing is, Puppet is not, you always have the wording common, Puppet and DevOps. So it means work like a developer. A developer does not program a database framework by himself. He looks around, what is available as code? How can I use it? Maybe some redefining of certain things, but he doesn't do all the implementation by himself. And start looking at Puppet not as being a tool, it's a framework. It's a framework where you also have plugins from other people who are already taking care of that certain solution. So yeah, don't start looking at it like something I put together certain things. It's a framework. I like it on the when you have the official training classes and you get the paperwork for the classes. On the last few pages, you have a summary, a story written on. They're comparing Puppet with playing Lego. So putting it together, little bricks, and build the whole building. It's really nice story. I really like it. I don't know whether it's available in public somewhere. The other thing is you're not alone out there. So there are approximately 180, 200 people around sitting here, and I assume who's not using Puppet? There was no hand rising up. So everybody is using Puppet at the moment. Most people have similar problems. Everybody wants to manage a database. Everybody wants to manage a web server. Everybody wants to manage a varnish cache system, a proxy system, a load balancer. It's absolutely common when you build infrastructure. You have a DHCP server. You have to take care of monitoring. So it's common problems, and why should you now start implementing individual solutions within Puppet? So people have taken care of that already, so there is code available. So reuse the code, which is already there. You have different sources where you can look for your code, the needed code for your framework. You can either look directly on the Forge, you can look directly into GitHub, or ask the people in your company. Go to them, see whether there are other departments. Have they already built something? We have very special software around here, it needs a special treatment, but that software is also used in another environment. Maybe there are people around who can support me and can give me a good feedback, and we can co-work, so we don't have the one guy doing everything, but we have many people working together. If you found the solution, either on GitHub or on the Forge, I like that animal. It's the egg-laying, wool and milk-giving pig sheep. It's a German thing. Definitely. Only that language is capable of putting together lots of words and make something new from it, either if it makes sense or not. So if you found the one solution, the thing that solves all of your problems immediately, use it. Well, use it. Give feedback to the people. Tell that you're using that. Try to, even if you say, okay, it's working 99%, so then it's your task to, okay, let's take the code and implement the missing 1% to make it really the one tool that rules everything. So when you found the solution, then you will start reusing modules, and you build an Apache module. Reusing what is already there, and just adding some lines, and you have your web server finished, and you have a system running with no default modules, no default virtual host, but at least you have the mod alias already there, and the service is running. So far more easy compared to I take care on certain packages with versions and putting links, and the Red Hat system does it in another way. I have to find an implementation for that too. This is all built in. In this example, it's the Puppet Labs Apache module. So, but is this reality? Can you really find something outside? Mostly yes. But sometimes you're also being in trouble when you say, okay, I need for that certain software. It's not standard software. It's not used in a broad environment. Most people copy it and configure it manually at the moment. It's from universities and stuff that is developed at the university in this special case. So we were checking in our project for a Puppet module for a very specific private cloud management solution software. And we were looking around, and we found one on the Forge, already available. And we took a look on the GitHub repo, and we saw, the last commit is 13 months ago. Not really often downloaded. So, okay, let's talk to upstream. Let's see what upstream is saying about this module. And on last year's Puppet Conf in San Francisco, I met Ken and asked him, hey Ken, you know about this module? And he said, oh yeah, that one. Yeah, see, this is more like try and see whether things would work like that. Do yourself a favor, rewrite it from scratch. Okay, we haven't found a module. We have to write it from scratch, starting, implementing the whole module, the whole structure we would need. So we started writing public, shareable, parameterized modules. Why do we use parameterized modules? We don't want to, when writing a shareable module, you have to take care that you don't force the users on a certain usage. So you want to allow a user to adopt things. And adopting things can be best done by parameterizing all your classes, all your modules. First thing. The second thing, we first thought about directly using lots of sources of Hira as data source. We said, no, this is no good, because there may be people around who say, no, we don't use Hira for data. We have another way of putting data into Puppet. So we said, okay, we're using only parameterized classes, but we're not using Hira directly. We use Hira in our wrapper classes because this is something we do internally. We're using Hira strongly. So we use the wrapper classes. When you have the repository there, don't put in private data. You don't want your root password to be available on GitHub or stuff like that. Or maybe your SSH public key, yeah, so you can log in everywhere. That is fine, yes, of course, but not your MySQL root password or an htaccess file, at least for the front-end system. Yeah, correct. Do yourself a favor and start immediately with a public repository. Why is this important? When you work on a private repository, so you have something like a Git server in your company and you say, okay, put the module over there and we start developing it, and then you want to move that module over to GitHub, you can only copy it over, but you will lose all the Git history. You would have someone clone into GitHub, and I haven't found a solution on how to clone an existing repository into GitHub, at least not with the cost-free open accounts. And take care of a proper license. So people may use it and don't say, but you have to pay a fee when you want to use it, and there's certain code inside, but we don't know where this code comes from, and we don't have the proper license for the code, so take care of the code. Either do it like Puppet Labs does it, it's the Apache version 2 license, or you just say, okay, it's even more, you say it's GPL, it's okay, do whatever you want with it, or at least a proper license which allows you to distribute the code you've written. And of course, take care that either your boss or your boss's bosses are supporting you when you say, hey, when you're doing something here and you want to make it public. Sometimes people don't like the idea of paying for people and afterwards seeing that code in public. Explaining to them why is it that you're doing, what is it that you're doing. Mostly they will understand. They will at least understand if you start talking about this, what you are doing in public, so you don't need the slides, hey, we're looking for people to hire. Everybody knows that what you're doing. You don't have to put it on slides somewhere. When you have developed your public module, so this is the more generic part of the module, where you say, okay, we have done different things, software can now move forward, move backward, and we can put on certain modules on top of it with our Puppet module, so the software is configurable now, the stack is complete. Then you want to write another module, which is your private module. And this is the module, the private module what you're writing. This is the module that you're also writing when you're using foreign code, like Puppet Labs Apache or Puppet Labs MySQL modules. So this is your wrapper module, where you say, okay, here I'm collecting my private data from Hira or any other data source, or from SitePP. I hope you're not doing data in SitePP anymore. And you're using it like it's a role and profile. So search for Puppet roles and profiles to fully understand the separation of shared modules and private data. When you're working in a company and you're doing a shared module, it's like doing open source software. So afterwards, you're upstream. You're responsible for the code which is there. Your responsibility to take care that the code is always in the proper shape. That is, this case not compiling, but yeah, maybe you've written tests that the tests are passed. Always keep in mind that other people may have similar, not identical problems they want to solve, but they have similar problems. So allow them to change the way how your Puppet code works. Take care on your code that runs on different platforms. Not everybody is using Debian Stable as a internally Linux system. Other people say, hey, no, we use Debian testing. We're always using Debian testing. Other people say, no, we're using Red or CentOS. Other people say we're using Gentoo. So take care that your module will work on different platforms. This was Linux only. Think about Solaris. Think about a Windows system. Then try to build up a community around the things you're doing. Try to identify other people who are using your modules. Maybe you can see it on the GitHub fork, on the GitHub, when you see other people have forked your module. Ask them, okay, so try to support them in the usage of the module. They will improve your documentation for your module. Ask them whether there is some more they want to add, some more ideas they want to add. Ask them to do pull requests. If there are pull requests, review them in a certain amount of time. Doesn't have a pull request sitting around for 6.5 months, because otherwise the other people, the other guy who did the fork and did the pull request will say, okay, upstream is unresponsive, so I'm now managing my part of code and it's more complete and yeah, it's in a better state than the one which I did the fork for. Like I mentioned, merge improvements. So if other people say, hey, this is really cool what you did there, but I'm missing a certain thing. It's not working in a way you did it, but here's the solution. Yeah, just add it to your code. Allow the pull request. When you have people co-working with you and you see, hey, they're good pull requests, allow them direct access. Hey, it's an open source development and it has lots to do with trust. Trust in other people and trust that they don't want to make you troubles, but they want to support you in the development of the code that you have written there. Always think about writing tests. Do good tests. Write Puppet RSpec tests, run RSpec system tests, use Docker for testing, spin up virtual machines somewhere to see whether everything is working. Depends on what is it, how deep does the testing go. Write good tests, and if you think about, okay, now I've written enough tests to know that it's working, do a review and see whether tests are really missing. Write documentation. Please write a good documentation. Not the documentation like, oh, there's a test directory and there are some .pp manifest files and there you see for certain ways on how to use it. No, do it on the main view for the module. This is what people will look at it. So when you have the module forge open and you're searching for a module and you're choosing a module, you have a complete README in front of you where you see, okay, how can I use that module? This is the first thing people will look at. It's the same document will be shown on the GitHub, when you have the repo open and there's a readme.md file, for example. Make a table of contents and say, okay, these are the things that are already working, and if you know something is not working, also put it into the documentation. It's still in the repo and you can change it anytime. And of course, the very best thing to find whether things are working or not is use your own code. Don't start developing something and afterwards not using it. And horribly fast, as I learned. I will have time, lots of times for questions. So, don't start working the hard way. Make it the smart way. Don't start building something in your porcelain tower, not usable on the outside. Start working in a way where you can share your ideas. Write good documentation, write good examples. So write good tests. Tell the world that the module is there. So either when you see the software, we wrote the module for, we used their mailing list and we wrote a blog report about that module. There we put the note inside that the company I was working for, looking for people. So we also, of course, they also wanted us to provide those informations to publicity. Be a responsible upstream. Take care that the code is in a good shape. Take care that when people have questions, that you answer them. When people have pull requests, that you review them. When people show you error reports and things are not working, try to co-work with them to find, okay, why is it that they're having the problem? The test passes, so why is it they're not having a problem on their platform? Review other users' pull requests and see whether they do some good. Build a community around everything you're doing. If you have people working with you for quite some time and you see, okay, they do lots of pull requests, allow them direct access. Say, hey, you've done so many pull requests and every code you delivered was in a nice and good shape and there was always tests around and you also adopted the documentation. So allow them direct access to your Git repo so they can say, okay, it's a co-worker from the Git terms. When there is already something available, not as a shareable module, don't refactor. Refactoring means taking bugs from the old system into the new system. It's just refactoring. Write it from scratch new. When you find a module which was written ages ago for Puppet 2.0.25 version, don't expect that to be fully compatible with a Puppet 3.4 version. So rewrite it from scratch. Look at the old one and see, okay, let's see whether they have nice ideas how to solve certain problems. Yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but as part of the module, don't reuse the complete module and rewrite it. Always take care that there will come up new requirements. So the first department in the company you're working for says, okay, we want to have a solution that fits in that way. And you start developing a module, even a shared module, and you build the wrapper module, the private module, with your data inside. And then another department learns, oh, they have done the same thing in 1.5 weeks because they spend almost 1.5 weeks encoding Puppet, and afterwards they spin off some machines and they have the systems running. We are doing it in another way. We are working now for 4 weeks and we have almost 50% complete. So let's get in contact with these guys and say, okay, yeah, this is good what you've done there, but we need it in a slightly other way. So build it again around your public shared modules to let your module work in a different way. And what I always prefer is parameterized. Use parameterized classes. Don't do the inheritance stuff, do parameterization. Don't force your users to use certain data sources for their parameters. Let them choose. Let them choose them whether they want to use it in a direct way. They say, okay, this is the class, and the class gets these parameters, and they're hard-coded into the system, into their private data, in the private module. Or let them choose whether they want to use Hierarch. Maybe they have even another data source they want to use for it, where you don't know that this one exists because this is something they have developed internally. They are fetching data from a server inventory database, for example. So don't force the users on certain data sources. Yeah, because sometimes I don't like it when I'm working as a consultant. No, freelancer. It's a better term, freelancer. Because consultants normally work for consulting companies. When a consultant comes to a customer, he gets a certain job from the customer saying, okay, build up something like that. But the real job of the consultant is getting more consultants into the company because he's working for a consulting company. I want to have a new word into any dictionary. This company has been consultantized. Making things which are absolutely simple, try to make them as complex as possible to get as much money out of the company. Yeah, maybe that's good for consultants, but we are doing shared Puppet modules. They should be easy to understand and easy to read so people will use them. So please, keep it simple and stupid. And the other thing, I really like that term. I found it a couple of days ago in the footer of one of the people in Debian mailing lists, and I really like it. It's perfection is achieved not when there's nothing more to add, and then there's nothing more to take away. So this is the complete thing. When you have everything in place and say, okay, I can't remove anything now without losing some functionality. But I can't add anything more for adding more functionality. So this is perfect. It's a, Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. As I mentioned, we have lots of time for questions. I could give a wrap up. So who's writing on shared modules? So who's cooperating on some GitHub modules okay, only a few. So who's using shared modules? I'm still missing around 30% that either don't. Okay, who's writing his own modules only? Okay, I'm very interested in what about 1 to 3 of the people might do. Either they would not like to show what they are doing, which is absolutely okay for me, or they don't write modules.
I use Puppet in different way.
I use Puppet in a different way.
Yeah.
Okay.
I synchronize my configuration. That's all. I synchronize my configuration and parameterize it. That's all.
Okay. I completely forgot about that one. Yeah, but you can also use Puppet in a different manner.
Right, yeah, I've absolutely loved the talk so far. It may answer a little bit your question, but obviously I'm only talking from my perspective. I started first bit, I went, yeah, fantastic, module writing. I'm with you on that. I'm going to start writing modules. I'm going to give them to you. And then I went, Jesus Christ, that's a lot of work. I don't have time for any of that stuff. Purely because I'm much more of a sysadmin than a developer. And 90% of that was the stuff that we bread and butter for the developers in the company. But I'm just trying to get stuff working with strings and tin cups and everything like everybody else does. So that's probably maybe where some of the people are coming from, and certainly where I come from. If you're really looking at getting a module, it might be nice to have this is a get yourself started module. But for those of us that don't do any development.
Just let me repeat it because I don't know whether everybody heard. It was the suggestion to build up something like the starter module starter kit. So this is something which you should use and just take a look on the documentation, and it's already there. As far as I know, whether the actual or the upcoming Puppet Enterprise version, they will do it in that way. They will bundle modules from the module forge, like Chris, yeah, you told it that there will be support for commercial support for forge modules for Puppet Enterprise solution.
Yeah.
And I suppose this is similar to understand that there are modules already bundled and you have support for them, and this is something that will come definitely with the Enterprise version. Yeah.
We've got a Puppet module skeleton in our open source repository that you can use. We've got a Puppet module skeleton in our open source repository that you can use to generate all the files you need to get started with a Puppet module. That's DDS, so it's DDS operations on GitHub.
I understood you. I'm not a native English speaker. And I know the British, they have a really nice accent, but it's hard to understand. Yeah.
We've got a project that allows you to generate, I think it's called the Puppet module skeleton.
Yeah.
And you can use it to get started on writing a Puppet.
Yeah. You mentioned that there is a module, thanks for, yeah. I haven't had that in my note. There's a module on GitHub which builds up a skeleton for modules. You could also use the Puppet module tool. It will also generate a skeleton for your module. But I suppose the skeleton will go a little bit deeper into what is it that you want to have there. So the Puppet module tool will build a module where you have the directory structure which is required, you have the manifest file, you have the initpp file with already a standardized documentation on top of the class definition. You will have a templates and files directory, you will have the test directory, you will have a README file, you will have a module file already there. So it's preparing for uploading the module also to the module forge. According to Module Forge, since people from Puppet Labs are around here, what I really would like to see on the Module Forge is doing votes, not seeing only the number of downloads of the module, but also having something like a +1, I like that, or stuff like that. So yeah, that people can see, okay, this module has been downloaded 25,000 times. Yes, because it's a good name, it has good search expressions, but yeah, I just downloaded it and deleted it immediately. And, yeah. So, if you need a vote, if you need a vote for the voting system, I vote for it.
Do you think that Geppetto even will help people like start the Puppet module?
Definitely. Geppetto, the question was whether Geppetto will support people in writing good modules. Definitely. It's a very good IDE. It's based on Eclipse, so you can either use Eclipse and Geppetto, download the Geppetto plugins or download Geppetto directly. It's a way that supports you in developing good modules in a good style. Yeah. It also directly takes care on stuff. So what we do, for example, where I always do some Puppet support in companies, I always like the Puppet build parser because it delivers you more readable code, better readable code. And since when I saw some code in Puppet where they just had the left border of their editor and there were no spaces at all, and wow, let's see where the class starts. Oh, they're putting subclasses into classes. Oh, how horrible. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, using something like an IDE might be better, or at least a Vim plugin for Vim, which also supports you in a very effective way of getting things in a nice-looking way.
No, I'm just going to follow up on the forthcoming. It's a legitimate question. I mean, one of the things we've done obviously is having the commercially supported modules, and that gives you a guarantee.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need some kind of metadata to give people an indication of your supportability. So usually for modules on the forwards, what we suggest is look at the content of the thing. Don't just stick it straight into production. Check whether it's got tests. And download count is a thing. Look at the author. And those are the indicators at the moment.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I've had experience working with roles profile pattern that lately have been showing more and more documentation, having like very small profiles and getting very complex higher data structures to fit standard modules.
Was that a command or?
No, yeah, we've had a chance to implement large infrastructure with that. Because so far what I've seen is like a lot of people they call Apache modules from their own modules, but now it's more like profiles calling Apache but taking
you somehow have to combine the shared module and you have the private data which you would like to put into that module, and you somehow call it roles and profiles or call it a wrapper module or whatever name you would like to give the thing that you're building there. At least it's a module.
Yeah, but specifically my question is around Hiera, having complex data structures in Hiera rather than simple data structures. Which is something that.
I know what you want to like to say. When you do roles and profiles, the argumentation is, oh, it's okay. You have a nice, small, smart-looking module, and you have put the complexity into Hiera. What I learned the other way around is putting the complexity into the module, which makes it even harder to maintain. So at least you have outsourced your data out of the module. You have moved it away from the module into another place. But the Hiera is quite a good way of even managing complex data. And the other benefit, when you have the data separation and you want to change the data, you don't have to run all the tests for your modules again and see whether things are breaking, because it's a data change only. So if it's in the name change only, an IP address change only, you don't have to test all your module structure again. So yeah, you still have complexity, or rethink how you're building your Hiera data. Maybe the building of your Hiera data was already too complex, and that is the reason why you're having complexity in the Hiera data.
Yeah, I was wondering for modules, for documentation markup, I think that's something that used to exist and then you've taken it away. Are there plans to bring that back, or if there is some mechanism?
This is a question regarding the in-module documentation for modules and the markup language over there. I really like that in-module documentation because it's allowed me to write my module, write the documentation, and afterwards generate the documentation for all of my modules automatically. So we're using it with post-commit hooks that will, post-push hooks that will update our documentation site automatically when we have a new module, for example, available. So it's still useful, but I also prefer having it in a separate README file, because this is the first thing that people will see when they look at your module, either on the Forge or on GitHub.
Should you have one module that has many versions of the software, or many modules, one for each version? So you say Apache 1.3 and 2.0.
Yeah, the question is, would you like to have one module for each version of a certain software, or one module for all versions of the software? It's a very interesting discussion that this follows up in the same pattern. Like at the moment we're having the MySQL module and the PostgreSQL module on the module Forge, directly developed from Puppet Labs. Should we separate that in a more generic database system and then split up into identifying more in detail MySQL and Postgres solutions? Other questions rose up. I want to build a MySQL master-slave setup. How do I do that with that module? And it's the same pattern. If it's possible, if it's easily possible in building a module that supports multiple versions of the same software, I will put it directly into the module. If it's a change in a software version that changes a lot of the configuration of the software itself, then I will say, okay, this piece of the module supports software version until that certain version, and afterwards you have to use that module. It really depends how the software changes. Is it a really major new rewrite of the software that puts configuration files into another directory? Configuration are now no longer plain text files but XML snippets. Whatever has changed on the system. I would make it depending on these questions, whether to rewrite a new module or use the existing for multiple versions, or saying, okay, I'm writing a new one.
Could you go into a bit more depth regarding how you're testing your modules? It's something that I've looked into, so I know about.
Okay. The question is how do, especially now, how I do test of modules. Okay. I like the RSpec testing is the first thing. So I write rake tasks for using the Puppet Lab spec helper, the RSpec Puppet implementation. I haven't found time so far looking into RSpec system, so also spinning off virtual machines automatically. So this is the basic testing, which I also like doing in an automatic manner, and of course taking care on testing it with multiple Ruby versions. So at least with version 1.8, 7 was supposed to the last one, and 1.9 and 2.0.
Good question, because what sort of front end do you use? Because obviously you use parameterized classes. So for example, I prefer to use a format in terms of parameterized classes, because you can easily manage that. And when you write a class, when you write a module, it kind of forces you to reduce parameters if you use a format. You've kind of got that. But
the question is, what kind of front end am I using for managing my data, which I have separated from the modules? Yeah. Well, the first answer is VI. Yeah. Okay. So full stop. And we are only using VI. So we mostly don't use frameworks like the Puppet board, for example, or primarily Puppet dashboard. So we don't use Foreman. I know that the production environment likes Foreman for the reporting stuff, but not for the configuration stuff. So we have separated that. We have a separate repository, which is for Pyra data only. This one gets merged. This one is one repository for all developers and Q&A department. And the production team goes and merges those data with their production data, because they don't want to share their information about the production environment with it's still a big company. So it's they have 50, 60,000 employees, stuff like that. So they're delivering post and parcels in Germany. And they're doing now something electronically. So it's still It's a dinosaur that wants to start moving, get moved again. So this is the reason why they now have some small agile department within their big system. And we don't use any front ends to manage the data. We manage them manually. We manage them using AI. So if a developer wants a new HIRA data inside the HIRA database, he adds those data to the database, and automatically the production department gets a notification there's new data into HIRA, where also maybe the production department has to take care of at least when the data are different.
One last question.
Last question, okay.
How do you manage default values for your parameters in your classes? You mentioned that you didn't like to use inheritance.
Yeah.
A lot of people use the params.
This is the one thing where I say, yeah, okay, inherit from the params PP, full stop. But don't do any inheritance across modules or multiple inheritance, so you have the grandfather and the grandchild, and you don't know which module replaces which data in which context. So this, I personally don't like it. So that's the main reason. I know about inheriting from params PP, so you have a separate class which does all your data lookups, for example. The other way we do it now in my company I'm working now at the moment, we say we put everything into initpp and we use initpp as a parameterized class. And we don't inherit from params PP, because in params PP we only have non-changing data, like how does the configuration file, what is the name of the configuration file on a Red Hat and on a Debian system. So it's more static data, but it changes among systems. So this is what we put in params PP, and everything else we put directly as parameters into PP. Depends on how you prefer, what is the preferred way. Okay, so I'll be around for the rest of the day. Any more comments like my bad language or bad story? Yeah, I'm around here. Thank you very much.